What up, gamers? Is your boy Will 777JP back at it again with another one. And thank you for clicking on this video and watching it. I wanted to make this video real quick. Well, I always say real quick, but it always drags out. But this is a very important topic. As you can see here, I am on William Aguilar's page over on Twitter. And before I continue with this video, please, if you are a user of X, go on over, hit the follow, hit the bell, the notification bell, so you can get alerts, man. Because William, not only is he awesome because he's also named like I am, but this man drops some incredible knowledge and gives you a great perspective on the video game industry, man. So please check him out. And I'm bringing him up because, and by the way, shout out to William for giving me permission to go ahead and make a quick video in regards to one of the posts that we are currently going to go over and what this video is about. But it's stuff that you guys have heard me say. Some of the things that we're going to go over today, you have heard me say previously for those of you guys that have been following me for a while. And William just did a great job at putting everything together in one post, and you'll see what it's about. But I just think that he worded this correctly, and it really brought up some good points, and it's something to think about. So I'm gonna go ahead and read his post, and I am also gonna give you guys some opinions off the top of my head. Not off the top of my head, but in between reading the post. To give you a little bit more perspective. But please go check out William over on X. I'm not sure if he has any other socials, but please go check him out. Dude is awesome. But the post that I wanted to talk about is he posted 2 days ago, and it's called Top 10 Recommendations to Sony Interactive Entertainment PlayStation. It is a two-part post, but I'm going to start reading and I'll make some pauses in between, but let me know what you guys think about this. I think this makes a lot of sense. I think you guys will also think it makes a lot of sense, but if there's something that you want to add or change or subtract or what you think is different, please let me know in the comments below. But to start off, he puts top 10 recommendations to Sony Interactive Entertainment / PlayStation, part 1 of 2. Number 1. Don't make multiplayers / live service games without an offline single player story / campaign attached to it, even if it's as short as 10 hours long. This creates a world and characters for the players to be invested in and care about that would be then aid the main focus of your game, which is the multiplayer. Most people might just jump into the multiplayer to begin with, but there will always be a significant percentage of the potential multiplayer audience that won't care about the multiplayer, no matter what genre it is, until they care about the world first. Using cutscenes, vignettes without having a single player offline story mode, see Concord, is not sufficient. Additionally, even if a percentage of the audience only plays a short 10-ish hour long story and never touch the multiplayer, you will still make a sale for that game at $40 to $70 at the cost of relatively inexpensive single player story, as opposed to the more expensive 20, 30, 100 plus hour long stories that your main narrative driven games offer. And William makes a great point here, and I've been saying this specifically since Concord, and even a little bit before that. I've been posting on X, and I've been saying things like, developers, please stop following fads. Please stop following trends. Make gamers fall in love with your IP so much that they're begging you for more content. They're begging you to come out with a DLC. They're begging you to hand you over that money. It is the organic way of doing things. And if we go back to the longest standing online multiplayer games, look at how they started. Look at Fortnite, how it started. It was an organic thing that grew into what it is today. They didn't just make a huge online multiplayer game and expect it to make the billions of dollars it makes every year. No, they started small and then they expanded based on reception. And that is great, great. It makes great business sense, right? Because now you're able to pivot, you're able to call an audible, you're able to maneuver into what works instead of trying to bend the customer should be bending you, and you should go the way that the customer dictates. Now, Concord is a great example because Concord had this plan of doing something, I think it was weekly, where they would do kind of like a little short video and kind of move the story along. Well, that's great and all, but we're gamers. I mean, a lot of us gamers, we're gaming way more than we watch TV, movies, TV shows, etc. So when he talks about coming out with a single player story campaign, it doesn't have to be long. It could just something to introduce the characters, introduce the world, have people fall in love with it and want more. And guess what? If you do a good job at those things, people are going to want to play the multiplayer aspect of the game. You guys know me. I am a single player gamer. I don't play the PvP stuff. I hardly play the PvE stuff. I just don't. I prefer my single player narrative driven campaigns. A lot of PlayStation gamers do as well. That's the main reason we game on PlayStation, right? Because PlayStation's first party puts out those narrative driven, award winning games that we really, really love. And I think that for Concord, using Concord as the example, if they would have done a small campaign, and I'm going to even go against William a little bit, even a 5-6 hour campaign, it would have done wonders to Concord and as far as the investment goes. And forget the $30-$40, you can sell that puppy for $60-$70. I mean, people do it with Call of Duty all the time. I know I do. The only reason I did not buy the Call of Duty, the last one, Modern Warfare 3, was because based on the reviews and what everybody was saying, they were saying that it's basically a DLC. It's only 3-4 hours long. And as much as I want, or I would prefer a shorter game, right? I still want it to be worth my money. And as much praise as I give Call of Duty for their polish and their gunplay and all these other things, that's still too short. I did end up buying Call of Duty later on, Modern Warfare 3, but at a huge discount, which was $20. But before this game, I bought it every year because I was interested in playing the campaign. And guess what? I dipped my toes in a multiplayer just a little bit here and there, but I always reverted back to the campaign, right? And that would have done wonders for Concord, a game like Concord. Another thing too is when Concord got announced in the state of play this year, what's the one thing they did? They gave us, I think it was a 13-minute presentation about the game, and more than half was an anime explaining the world, explaining the characters. Come on, guys, that's not how you do it. We're gamers. I mean, a big percentage of people when they're watching state of play, what's the first thing they say? Where's the gameplay? Where's the gameplay? Right? Why don't you think that applies to when we buy the game? So I just think that's a great example. Now let's take another example. Look at Space Marines 2. That game has a single player story campaign which you can play co-op. It has PvE missions and it has PvP. Most people who bought that game didn't buy it for the PvP stuff or PvE. They bought it for the campaign, and they ended up loving that game so much. Like me, I ended up doing the other 6 missions that were PvE with my buddy Henry Heck, which follow him on X and YouTube if you haven't. So that's because I fell in love with the game and I wanted more and I jumped into it. Another great example is Ghost of Tsushima. We had no idea there was going to be a multiplayer aspect to that game. And guess what? The multiplayer aspect was phenomenal. And because people love the single player campaign, they hopped in to that multiplayer aspect as well. Right? So it's just a great example of what he's talking about here, man. It's like, stop. I understand the live service and I understand that it has a possibility of making a lot of money, which your returns are going to be great, right? Especially with the cost of development. But it's also a big, huge risk. I mean, right now, Concord, they're talking that it's lost $400 million. Whether that's true or not, we know that they lost some sort of money, and we know that the money they lost is significant. It's a lot. Whether it's 20, 30 million, that's a lot. Whether it's 2, 3, 400 million, which is even more. The second point he makes is invest more in your 3D platformers mascots to bring in a larger portion of the kid and family friendly audience that Nintendo has almost completely captured. But Spyro and Crash from Microsoft acquired or established several studios dedicated only to making family friendly mascots, games like Sly Cooper, Ratchet, Jack, Medieval, etc., and have enough of them to be able to release at least one of these a year, alongside the more mature narrative focused games that you are best at. That's another great example. Just yesterday, I watched a Lego documentary. And the Lego documentary starts off, what caught my attention is they started off as making toys with blocks. And you put the blocks together to make the toy. Kind of like Legos, but now it's plastic. Back then, it was wood. Then they kept going, but they started to get away from their foundation. They started creating theme parks and all these other things that had nothing to do with Legos by in name only, and their value as a company, their revenue started to go down. Then they came to a toy that you put together, but it wasn't a Lego at all, and that really hurt Lego. Then all the kids that had grown up love Legos, but for some reason Legos did not want adults playing with their toys. Well, what happened? The adults play with it anyways, right? They grew up with Legos, they love Legos, now they're playing Legos. And it wasn't until they decided, you know what? Our customer base isn't just children. We have adults as well. Let's give adults something for them. They started doing licensing deals like with Star Wars and Harry Potter and all these other things, and then focusing Legos for adults where it's 16 plus recommended age, 18 plus recommended age, and Legos just blew up. And now it's doing better than ever because there was a need out there and they took advantage of that. And I think that's what he's trying to say here. It's like, look, you come out with these mature games and they sell very well. I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn sold close to 20 million, if not over 20 million. God of War, I mean, these are selling in double digits of millions of games. But how much more can you get if you get games like Spyro and Ratchet and Jack and Medieval? Look at Astrobot and the success of that game. Remember guys, when we all started playing video games, platformers was what we started on. So that nostalgia in us is always going to want to revert back to that. I know some guys that only play platformers. Like they have a Nintendo Switch and they love it because it is mostly platformer games, right? But that's just another opportunity where I think that if they focus less on the live service stuff and focus and not completely, but if let's just say they're focusing on live service 40%. Dude, let's just bring that down to 40% and take that 10% and apply to these platformers. You have a great incentive with not Ratchet and Clank, but Ratchet and Clank as well, but Astrobot. Astrobot is doing tremendously well. It's getting high praises. The gameplay is phenomenal. It is such an awesome game. Let's build off of that. Let's get some of these mascots that have been part of PlayStation history. Let's bring them back home. Let's make a big marketing push with them in it. Imagine announcing not Sly Cooper, but Spyro and Crash Bandicoot. Like, just imagine that. How ballistic gamers would go. The media. Like, come on, guys. It's there for the picking. Number 3, make more couch local co-op games and include co-op options in some of your single player games. Another excellent point. And I brought up Space Marines too. So as we all know, PlayStation right now, one of the things that they're concentrating effort is the amount of hours gamers play. Let me give you an example. Space Marine 2, I just brought that game up, right? I finished the campaign by myself. I decided to do the PvE stuff because I love the game with my buddy Henry Heck. And also, I've been replaying the campaign with Nelson Gaming Culture. So even though I beat the campaign, I'm still playing the same game because they have all these options available for me. They made an IP that is amazing, or they licensed the IP, which is amazing. They did an awesome job making the game, and it's a callback to the Xbox 360, PS3 era. The gameplay is awesome. I will look for games specifically that are couch co-op so I can play with my son, which was something that really frustrated me when playing Halo Infinite. Right? My son is young, so for him to play Halo 1 or CE, Halo 2, it's like, oh, dad, this game is old, so his enthusiasm isn't quite there. So an IP that is well established is now dying off because the people that you have there are still looking to, the gamers that you have we're getting older. We are getting older. The new generation is who should be taking over, but they're not, because they're not interested in the old games, and somebody that can introduce them to these older games like Halo Infinite can't even do it because of the fact that they can't play couch co-op. We can play online co-op, yes, but how much more fun is it when you play couch co-op right next to each other? All the jabbing and joking and all that stuff. You cannot get that with the online. With the mic, it's not the same. Everybody knows that. Number 4, acquire or create studios dedicated to making WRPGs, Western RPGs, and studios dedicated to making JRPGs, Japanese RPGs. If the RPG has companions, allow for split-screen, third-person local co-op, and online co-op. Not all RPGs with co-op should be top-down isometric view like the mass majority of them have been. Make more RPGs that can switch between top-down isometric first-person and third-person views. That is another great point. There is a game coming out called 20. I think it's 2077 Berlin. Let me take a look at it because that game has an interesting feature in there, and I'm just looking up the game right now, guys. So give me a second. In this game, the feature that it has is just exactly that. Now, it's not a co-op game that I know of. It's called Neo Berlin 2087. And one of the big things of Neo Berlin 2087 is the fact that you can go from first person to third person. Now, I think this is a single player game. We don't know much about it. It's not due to come out, till next year, but you know how that goes. But you can switch between first person and third person with a click of a button. Like, how awesome is that you have different options? I know people that when you get the option, they'll play the whole game in first person and then switch to third person and replay the game again. And then you have the flip side. You have people that only play first person games and no third person, or you have people that only play third person and no first person. And I would say you have way more of those than the opposite. And I know people like that. And to me, that's weird, right? A good game is a good game, right? No matter if it's isometric, first person, doesn't matter. If it's a good game, it's a good game. But why alienate a portion of the gamers to see your vision? And I get it. Your vision is what makes the game. But at the same time, a lot of you guys are complaining about how you're losing money and it's costing more to make these games. Make up your mind. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You cannot stick to your strictly artistic vision, but yet be mad when people don't want to play your Indiana Jones at first person. They want third person. But also, making games co-op and being able to switch the views is just more options. And more options is always better, right? What did he say about making companions allow for split screen? Yes, so we already spoke about that. Number 5, acquire or create studios dedicated to making all different genres of games to fill gaps in your portfolio. I agree with that as well. So acquiring studios, I'm for and against at times. The reason I am against is obviously the whole monopoly, right? You have one company buying up majority of studios. Well, that creates kind of little monopoly, and it's not good for the consumer per se, right? But I also appreciate that because if I know PlayStation is buying a studio, I know the quality is going to go up. I know the standard of performance is going to go up. I know that the polish is going to go up. I know that there won't be less bugs. That percentage of games are going to go up. I know that I'm going to get my fidelity, quality, 40. I'm going to get a multiple options. I know that's going to go up because there's expectations. But then, and not to do console warring, right? But let's just look at Xbox. The majority of the first party games they have released are 30 frames. They're saying, oh, it's artistic vision, we need it to be at 30, but then they come out with a patch a year later giving you 60 frame option. It's like, so what was it? But filling in those games to fill in those gaps is extremely huge because right now PlayStation has done a great job where in the year 2024 they're what, one first party game has released from PlayStation, which is Astrobot. Two, a first party IP but made by a second party studio, Helldivers. But they have given us exclusives. All these games are exclusives to the PlayStation 5, talking about consoles. They've kept us fed because they haven't done anything first party per se, right? We're still waiting on Ghost of Tsushima. We're waiting to see what Ben Studio's gonna do. Bluepoint, Naughty Dog. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And buying some of these studios can really take the weight off the studios like Insomniac, who has been killing it this generation. I mean, this generation they've released how many games? 4 games? I mean, they're killing it. Number 6, increase the distance of time between a game releasing on console and coming to PC to be one console generation later instead of 1 to 2 years later. With this strategy, you can double dip on revenue for a game without incentivizing anyone to leave your console to go to PC or wait for the PC version. Additionally, some PC players will buy consoles because they will truly be an entire game gen behind. Bingo! That is a huge point. How many podcasts have we listened to? How many people have we heard where a PC gamer's talking and they say PC gamers can wait? Specifically talking about GTA 6, right? When people make fun of them a little bit, say, oh yeah, that's why GTA 6 ain't coming to PC for a long time. It's like, we can wait. We ain't got no problems with waiting because we prefer the game on PC. Okay, cool. PC gamers already prefer to wait. Who gives a shit about PC gamers? I think they're a little weird anyways. But make them wait. Because if PlayStation keeps going at the pace that they're going, right? They release a game anywhere between a year to 2 years later is going on PC. Well, guess what? The average gamer is only beating three games or buying 3 games a year anyways. So most people take them a whole year to beat a few games if they beat a few games. So why not make PC gamers wait till the next generation and really, I call it squeezing all the juice from your fruit before you move on to the next fruit. So there's still juice in that orange to be squeezed on the console side before you toss it out and move on to an apple and try to squeeze that. But when you come out with a game 1 to 2 years later to PC, you're just leaving some juice on that orange before you move on to the apple. And look, I'm a hardcore console gamer, but there have been times where I'm just brainstorming, thinking, I'm like, well, I can't just get a PC. The PlayStation games are starting to go there. The performance goes ways up. The Pro is $700. I can take $700, sell my current console right now, my PS5, sell my Series X, and now I got enough money for a kind of nice PC, right? Kind of nice PC here. We're talking 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15 to 2 G's just by trading the stuff that I have in. I'm like, now I can really get a really nice PC. It's not going to be no 4090 or nothing like that, but it's going to be plenty where I can run games at 60 frames, high fidelity. Now I'm not going to do it because I don't have the patience for troubleshooting and I don't have the patience to maximize the settings for whatever game. I prefer console because I push a button and I'm in the game within 30 seconds, and PlayStation has the games that I want to play anyways, and I get them right away. But that's still in the back of my mind, especially when PlayStation is starting to go more digital. Eventually, they're going to come out with a console that's digital only. And you guys know how I feel about physical, so if they start to go digital, I'm like, well, what's the point of even having a console except for those conveniences of push a button, you start going already, and that's it. Eventually, I'm just going to be like, you know what? I'd rather deal with it for a few minutes on the PC and have way more games options available, right? Number 7, Don't make unattractive characters under the false and pretense guide of wanting to be realistic. The fans know it's not for that reason, so stop it. The world is full of diverse looking people, but if you want things to actually be realistic, you need to ask yourself a simple question. Would this person actually be in this situation and be able to do what they're doing? And if the character you're creating it is an already existing character from a pre-established IP, you must ask, is this the best looking version of this character that we can depict? If the answer is no, then change it. If the answer is no, because we want this pre-existing character from this iconic IP to look more average, then don't do it. Some of these things don't have to apply to fantasy worlds where the magic can overcome the restraints of the physical reality. But even in those cases, it's important to remember that people like playing as attractive characters, and there's nothing wrong with that. There shouldn't be a ban on using plain or unattractive characters, but you should just make more time to consider why you want to do that. If it's for meta ideological reasons, the opposed to serving the game itself, then don't do it. In addition to all of this, be more introspective, honest to yourself about art design. Well said. Men and women love looking at beautiful people. Men love looking at beautiful men. Men love looking at beautiful women. Women like looking at beautiful men. Women like looking at beautiful women. That's just a reality of life. Why do we want mediocrity in our video games? Look, I'm average as hell. I mean, you can't get basically no more average than me. I don't want to play as myself as a character. I already play as myself in real life. Sometimes I get lucky, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I date somebody that's above me look-wise. Sometimes I date somebody that's below me look-wise. Sometimes I have more money than my friends. Sometimes I have less money. That's just the way life is. I still get up, I go to work, I deal with the battles of life, I come home, I try to better myself financially, physically, spiritually, my family. I try to do all these things, right? I don't want to come home and have to deal with the same things on a video game character. And guess what? All my friends and family, similar thing. Some are a little bit more beautiful, some are a little bit less ugly, some are a little bit more overweight, some are a little bit too skinny. Hey, that's the world is full of averages. I do not want that in my video games. I know most of you guys don't either. Moving to part 2. Number 8. Stories and characters with their motivations, ambitions, goals, dreams, plans, etc. can be as diverse as the genre of music, but if you ever get stuck, just remember that you can never go wrong with the classic hero's journey. There is a reason why the classic hero's journey has lasted through millennia. This is literally trying to reinvent the wheel, bro. Come on. Some things are just made to perfection. Yes, you can make a little bit better. You can also make them a little bit worse. But there's nothing wrong with creating a hero's journey. Add it up. Add some sugar and spice to it. Come on. You are the creatives. Literally, me and my friends got together for 5 minutes talking after we got done doing a podcast. And we came up with a whole video game idea, mechanics, the whole 9 yards in 5 minutes. Just shooting the shit. And it's something that we would have played. You're telling me when you're making a $200 million game, you can't? Number 9. Consider the possibility of creating a work and PlayStation 6, which would be a computer that would be released alongside the PlayStation 6. The work and PlayStation 6 would have PS6 inside of it, but with a lot more CPU, GPU, and RAM for PC-related tasks, and come with a controller, but it would also come with a keyboard and mouse and multiple Sony-made apps, and program Sony version competitors to all the Adobe programs, Sony 3D modeling programs, AI assistants, and Sony versions competitors to Microsoft Office programs. All PS6 games would come day one to the work and PlayStation 6, but they would not come to Steam or any other PCs. The work and PlayStation 6 will be less open modular computer, think similar to Apple computers, which are more close and less modular, but you would still add more RAM to it if you wanted, and you would be able to connect multiple of them together to create a supercomputer or a server. All game devs owned by SIE would replace their PCs and exclusively develop games on the W and PS6. They would still use third-party programs like Unreal Engine or Unity. It would have your own Sony created search engine with the option to get others. It would be able to have Steam. The work in PlayStation 6 would be the only PC that can play PS6 games day one, as it would have the PS6 SoC on the motherload alongside the extra feature specifics to the computer. The PlayStation 6 will be $499 USD, and the working PlayStation 6 will be $24.99 as a pre-built, less modular computer than a Microsoft Windows PC. The work PlayStation 6 will be able to play all PS6 games day one, but also be the main computer for writing, editing, 2D, 3D art, 3D modeling, game design, post, processing, video editing, VFX, architecture, business, financials, taxes, spreadsheet presentation, etc. It would have Sony create operating systems, not using Windows. The WMP6 would be able to connect to others to make it even more powerful computer for server-related tasks or extremely intensive rendering, modeling, simulation tasks. If you struggle with creating these programs yourself, you could acquire companies like LibreOffice to compete with Windows programs, Affinity to compete with Adobe programs. You would create synergies with the PS6 and your InZone PC devices. I'm not a huge tech guy. To me, this makes total sense. Keep your shit within yourself. That's another way to maximize. I always go back to the money, right? Because we keep hearing how their expenditures are so high, the costs are so high, and they're not receiving the same, in monetary returns. Well, what's one way you can do that? It's make the shit yourself. And that's what I take away from it. You guys let me know what you think. Number 10, do not give up on VR. The technology will continue to improve with time and will eventually become advanced enough that it will be one of the main ways people play video games. Acquire several studios dedicated specifically for making first-party VR games and don't allow competitors to snatch them all up like they did Camouflage and Ready at Dawn. Do not just rely on second-party partnerships to get you through to a VR market. Sometimes consumers have to be shown what they want before they know that they want it. That's a great point, because my first PlayStation VR for the PS4, they showed me, and then I wanted it. At first, I was against it, but I put that thing on at the mall. I did their little demo. Immediately after, I drove to about 2-3 different Best Buys looking for that damn thing, and I finally bought it. And I think it was like $400 at the time, or $3 something. I bought it right then and there. That's the power of showing me that I wanted it. This can only come from advancements in technology and the creative of exclusive first-party games made specifically for VR and the potential PlayStation VR 3. Do not shut down your VR studios if they underperform. The influx of consumers to a VR gaming headset will increase over time with the steady churn of compelling content. Side note, you are almost definitely already working on a PlayStation 6 portable, and my guess in 2024 is that it's basically a handheld PS5 that can play PS5 games natively but stream PS6 games over the internet. This is probably what it is, and if not, it should be. The technology of the internet, specifically satellite internet, will improve exponentially over the next 4 years. And before the release of the PS6 in 2028, if the PS6 portable is a 2029 device, and the internet will be even better by then. So, I agree. I agree with this 100%, man. I literally, if you guys haven't watched my video game collection, PSVR 2, go with that. One of the things that I say about that is how Horizon Forbidden West was my favorite game so far of this generation on VR 2. Is it because of the story and gameplay and all this stuff? No. I mean, yes, I love it, but that isn't the major reason. The major reason I love that game is because it works. It is a polished VR2 game. You can tell that they put effort into it. There's no lag, there's no glitch, there's no bugs, there's nothing that messes up my experience or messed up my experience. That's the biggest reason why I love that game. And of course I love Aloy, and of course I love Horizon. I mean, it's one of my favorite IPs ever. And then all that came afterwards. But first, did it work? And it worked beautifully. If PlayStation can give us the same quality that they did with Horizon, the same quality that we're used to on the PS5, they can definitely grow VR. Or at least make more money from it. But right now, the majority of the stuff on PSVR 2, it's all third-party stuff, man. And they're right. I mean, the only thing I'm against this is because, I mean, look at Meta, Facebook. They've been losing billions every year to keep MetaQuest going. At one point, is it going to start to pay off for these companies for them to keep going? That's the question. And businesses, they don't have that much patience. As far as the PS6 and the PS5 portable or the PS6 portable, look, I think handhelds are going through a resurgence right now. People forget that we had a PSP, we had PS Vitas, and those didn't sell that well. We'll see with the PSP portable or the PlayStation portable right now, how that does hardware sales wise. But you know, some of the things that they've come out with, they're just ahead of their time, right? I think the Connect and they're always online thing that Xbox did with the Xbox One was ahead of its time, always connected to the online. I think that was ahead of a generation, and that hurt them greatly because of it. I think that if they would have came out with something similar, it would have done way better now. But that hurt them. I think it was just the wrong time, wrong place. And I have a feeling that these handhelds were too. Um, you know, because we have internet and the internet's much better. I mean, when I was a kid, we had internet too, but it was super slow. You guys know how it is. But I'm not a big handheld guy. If I'm at home, I'm playing on my PS5. I'm playing on a console. I mean, even when I went to on vacation in July to Florida, I was gone for a week and a half. I took my Steam Deck, my Nintendo Switch, and I took my PlayStation Portable. The majority of the time, you know what I spent gaming on? The Xbox One that was in the Airbnb. That's what I spent my time on. I did play the Switch a little bit because the games are native and I just didn't want to mess. And they had Wi-Fi, but the Wi-Fi wasn't the best. It's an Airbnb, so they got cheap Wi-Fi. I played the Switch, um, second most on we did a road trip, so on the road I played it as well. But outside of that, that's it. I mean, I bought Tears of the Kingdom. I bought a few of the Nintendo Switch exclusives, and those aren't even enough to get me to play on that thing. And then you're like, "Oh, hook it up to your TV." Well, the combination of like 10 hours that I have into my Switch on the TV, it's been on the TV. So just to give you an example of my want to play a handheld. Now I don't know if well, I know why. It's because the games aren't that appealing to me. God of War, Horizon, Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, Radiant M games. Those are the games that attract me. That's the reason I switched from Super Nintendo or Nintendo 64 over to a PlayStation 2, is because I felt like I outgrew the IPs on Nintendo are famous for, right? Not saying they're bad games, I have different wants. Now I have a son, so it's nice to go back into some of those games and play these platformers and stuff like that, but it's something that's temporary. It's not, there's no longevity in it for me. So for handhelds, if I'm at work, I'm at work. If I'm spending family time, I'm with family time. These trips that I go on vacation, I do one or two a year, combination of 20 days or so. I just don't know. But for the majority, I mean, it's a hot item. Everybody has a freaking handheld. Xbox is rumored to have a handheld. We're rumored to get the Switch 2. You have the Steam Deck, the ROG Ally. You have all these other things. So I mean, it's making it's coming back, right? But the big difference between what PlayStation does and then the Switch does versus the other guys is that they're making the games and they're coming from the platform itself. Where the ROG Ally Steam Deck, that's all third party, and Steam is the majority, or Windows, whatever, so that they control all that. So yeah, I think PlayStation and Nintendo have a leg up on that stuff as well. But hey, we'll see what happens. But either way, I made this video way too long, guys. I'm sorry, but this was just a very good layout that William did here, and I really wanted to share with you guys because I agree with a lot of this stuff. Actually, I agree with almost all of it. I mean, the only thing I don't really agree with maybe would be number 9 about the workstation PlayStation 6. I don't know how that would work. Once again, I'm not a tech guy. I mean, I can see the benefits. Obviously, doing everything yourself you'll make more money. Your costs will go down a little bit, but I just want my console to be a console. I know we have to look into the future of things, but once again, why reinvent the wheel, bro? If it works, it works. Just let me play my games in the best possible way possible, at the most frames, at the best fidelity. Make sure they're not buggy. Make sure that there are no glitches. And that's all I really want, I don't want I don't want to watch TV on it. I don't, yeah, I watch YouTube. Yeah, I can watch movies, whatever. Those are nice little features, but I don't want those features to take over the gaming console. So that will be the main one I disagree with. But everything else, I really agree with. Please go follow William Aguilar. Please hit that subscribe and or the follow, and hit that notification bell so you get the alerts whenever he tweets something. I mean, this dude is just awesome. And once again, shout out to William for giving me permission to use his post here to make this video. I asked him. He said, go ahead. I'm going to send him the link to this video. And William, let me know what you think, man. Did I do your stuff any justice? Did I mess it up? But either way, guys, thank you so much. Hit that follow, hit that subscribe, share this video out with your friends. I know it's a long video. I bet you not many people will watch it, but you hardcore gamers out there or anybody else who watches this thing, thank you, thank you, thank you. I started this YouTube journey a couple months ago. I had no subscribers. Now we're about 60 some days in and I have 40 subscribers. So we're moving. We're moving. As long as you guys want it, I'll keep giving it to you. And stay tuned. My next video is coming up in a couple days, and that will be more of my collection. I think I'm going to start with my PS3, or I might just continue with my PS5. Either way, I don't know. Let me know what you guys rather see. Should I start with my PS3, or should I just jump ahead to the PS5 since I already did my PSVR 2 game collection? Hit that like. Thank you so much, guys. Keep it gaming.